so here we go for episode 2 of I guess what was the name of this one going to be, Will?
The Trials and Tribulations of a Yeti at Heart is the name of this one. Um, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in last week. We had a lot of fun making that episode. Today, we're going to touch on, get my list out here. We're going to touch on a little bit of how Jason found the Yeti 100 race. I don't think he ever told me how he located that race through the Library of Ultra Sign Up races. Touch a little bit about on Jason Green, and a few other things we'll touch on tonight. Favorite parts of the Creeper Trail, the aftermath of a DNF, and as promised, we're going to talk about some of our training that we've been doing for the last couple of months. You want to get us started, Jason?
All right. So what was number one again? My memory shot now.
How you found the Yeti 100?
So I guess I found it, and I know that there's a question on there about how I learned about who Jason Green was. So you almost have to combo these together into one long answer, if that's okay. So how I found out about Jason was I listened to the East Coast Trail and Ultra podcast, the old one that had Ryan, Sean on it, and then Jason would come in and make guest appearances on it. And I was new in the trail racing, and I kept being told I needed to get into a Yeti race. I needed to run a Yeti race, but most of the Yeti races were long. They all had long distances. They were 50 Ks, 50 milers, 100 milers. So I found out there was a race called the Yeti Nightmare. The Yeti Nightmare was put on by Sean and Jason at that time. Now it's just ran by Sean. But Sean and Jason originally ran it together. And so I signed up for that as my first, Yeti race. And that was my first opportunity of being around him and seeing the type of atmosphere of the races that he was a part of. Because for those who didn't know what the Yeti Nightmare or what it was, most of the people who are Yetis know what it is. It was like, I think it's a 6 and 11 mile race, and you could either sign up for one or the other, or you could sign up for both, and they were in 2 different days. Anyway, I signed up for both of them, and I remember the first time I ever really saw him was on the first night of the they ran at nighttime, and it was ran at nighttime. And the first night for the 6 mile version, they had a Michael Jackson impersonator there. And he came out and he stood in the parking lot area, and he was dancing and singing. And Sean and Jason got out there, and they were fooling around and acting silly and stuff. And that was kind of my first foray into what the Yeti atmosphere was. Even though that race wasn't purely Jason, it had a lot of his elements inserted into it. And I'll never forget when I was finishing that first 6 miler. I was running up the hill. You finished up the hill and you ran into a shelter, and they were playing NWAs, and I can't really repeat the name of the song, but it wasn't a very family-friendly, safe for work song. And so that was kind of my first foray into the Yeti atmosphere. And so from that point, I had nothing against Sean, but I wanted to run a race that was a pure Jason Green race. So that was how I learned about the Yeti races and Jason. So the 100 miler came after I ran the damn Yeti 50 miler. That was my first ever 50 miler. And I remember finishing it. And I remember talking to one of the people there. And they were like, you need to run the Yeti 100 because that's basically this course, and you just kind of go back and forth, and it's really great. And I'll never forget how awesome the atmosphere was at that first damn Yeti. That is probably my favorite race of all time. The first year I ran that race, it was just unbelievable. And I thought, you know what, I do want to run 100-miler, and that is that place I want to do it with those people.
So you've actually you for people who don't know, you have a YouTube channel called Inked Up Runner.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yeah, retired.
Retired, but it's still out there.
Yeah,
You actually got a chance to interview Jason Green one time.
two
And I'm
times.
actually going to steal two times. I didn't know it was twice. I'm going to actually steal some of that footage and insert it here somewhere. But you've saw him on the trail a few times. You've talked to him. You've messaged him, and you've interviewed him. Does he live up to what you thought he was?
Yeah, oh gosh, yeah. I mean, he is exactly the person that he is at the races, on and off the camera. Like, usually anytime I would do an interview with any of these people, I would always talk to them a little bit before, and then I would always talk to them a little bit afterwards. Um, just kind of small talk, and just shooting the breeze. And he was exactly like that, down to earth. Um, you don't really see race directors that give out their personal phone numbers and say, text me or call me anytime. I can tell you, I have texted him multiple times asking him questions about races or situations and whatnot, and he has gotten back to me straight away and responded back quick, and was able to answer my question and get and tell me what I needed to know. And it's great because he truly, like, knows me. Like, he knows a whole lot of the Yetis that run his races. He takes time to get to know you. What race was it? um the damn Yeti, the first year I ran it, he actually personalized every single bib. He wrote on the back of it a personal message to every single runner on the back of the bib. That is wild to me. Like, that is a level of personalization that you just don't see. And but yeah, on camera, off camera, the guy is exactly who he says he is. He's 100%. What you see is what you get. There's no like on camera, off camera Jason. It's always the same. The guy's just the nicest person, one of the nicest people, always giving, always willing to help people, always just super friendly.
Speaking of bibs and package pickup, he gives one of the best swag bags during the 100-mile race that I've ever seen in my life. The two skateboards behind you, your right shoulder, over your right
Yeah, right,
shoulder.
right there. Yeah,
He gives one of those every year in the swag bag to the Yeti 100, right? For the Yeti 100.
yeah. You normally get a skateboard. You normally get a skateboard deck. I think so. The was it the first year? The first year I ran it, he didn't do it, but the second year, I believe he brought it back, and he did it the third year as well. He tends to always do it now. But yeah, I got them hung up back there. They're honestly, like, really cool. That and my Flying Monkey posters are my favorite race items. So
And the reason Jason gives a skateboard is he's a skateboarder, right? He's really into the sport, or used to be.
oh yeah, he used to do it a lot, and I think that was one of his things, was he was a huge skateboarder, and I'm sure he's probably still does skateboard. But I mean, me, I would probably kill myself on a skateboard, but that's why they're hung up on the wall and there's no wheels on them,
Right.
because I like the way they look, and
Well, for liability reasons, that's probably why he doesn't attach the wheels to them. He gives the deck to you, and that's it.
that's right.
If you decide to put wheels on it and fall and break your neck, it's on you then, right?
That's right. And that's really what he's famous for, is one, having a really great race atmosphere, a really positive attitude, a really people person, and then handing out really cool memorabilia. I mean, most people when they run races like this want to have something that they can remember it by. Obviously, a belt buckle is something that's big, but a skateboard is such an original idea that most people don't think about. And I mean, you don't just get a skateboard, you get all sorts of other stuff, but and it's not about just getting swag, but it's about giving something that's memorable. I think that I've ran a lot of races, and this is the only race where I've ever gotten a skateboard deck, and it's on my wall. Both of them are.
Well, before we move on, those skateboards, they're about tradition, right? And personal touch. You can't hardly tell. Maybe you can if you zoom in, but those skateboards are designed, and I'm assuming in a way that Jason Green wants them to be. They're actually either part of the trail. It looks like the creeper trail is on one, and then his logo is on the other. So they're very personalized.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you take that one that has the creeper trail on it. It has the finish line. It has the trestles on it, and it's got the rainbow. I mean, you can kind of see it. It's really cool, and then the skull is just fantastic. Um, but this race, just the whole Yeti culture really kind of
Right.
did, has always been a huge thing for me. Honestly, um, it was my first tattoo.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's a shoe. There's the Yeti. All this. This was my first ever tattoo. Was that because that race meant so much to me, and that was for the damn Yeti. Um, and so it's always been the culture and the people, and Jason, all of it's always meant a lot to me.
Okay. Well, and I'll say one thing. I've run one of his races, the 50 miler, and the thing that struck me about him was the two things: how positive he was, and it seemed like every 5 or 6 miles during that 50-mile race, I would see him standing on the trail, checking on every runner that ran by him, just making sure everything's marked right, making sure you're doing okay, patting you on the back. Um, he just seemed to be really good at what he does.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
The Creeper Trail was beautiful. What are some of your favorite parts of the Creeper Trail? Because you got 33 miles of Creeper Trail. If people don't know, basically you run out back. Well, how do you do it? You run.
You run out and back and out.
Okay, so you do it 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you get to see 33 miles of a rails to trail. Um, there's a lot of trestles on this trail, right? Like what, 40 of them or
I
something
think
like
it's
that?
four. I think it's 40 something. I can't remember. I think it might be the number 46 is in my head, but I don't know if that's right. But anyway, it's a lot.
So are there any memorable sections of the trail? You've been on it so many times that there's got to be a couple that stick out.
I think my favorite is the section between Alvarado and Abington is probably my favorite because of the landscape is so beautiful. It's also the most exposed section, but it's very scenic through that section, I feel like. And then it's tough because I also really like that section that you're coming down off the mountain. Mainly probably between Green Cove and Taylor's Valley. I like that section a lot too. But probably if I had to pick a favorite, it would be between Alvarado and Abington. That section is really, really nice.
Um, we talked about it last week. We've been to this race several times. Um, and it hasn't ended the way we would like for it to end yet. Not yet, not till this year. And there's been the morning after, right? Has there been morning after the DNF that you felt like everything is going to be okay? You didn't feel so bad about it?
Year 2 and year 3 definitely did not sting like year 1 did. Year 2, I felt like I had put everything out there, and I just got, I got hit with the health stuff, and I walked away feeling pretty good with the effort that I put out there. So, and then I think that was the year that my daughter came, and we went to Grayson Highlands and saw the little ponies, horses.
Mm-hmm.
That was super cool. And then we had our normal breakfast at Cracker Barrel, and I think that's the picture of you and I in the masks.
I got
Uh,
the fur coat on or the
the fur
vest,
coat on,
whatever.
yeah, the Pocahontas vest on.
Yeah.
Um, you know, that one definitely was probably the best. Year 3 wasn't as bad either. Year 3, I hate to say it, but I think year 3, I was in worse shape in year 3 than I was in year 2, because year 2, all I think really what I needed was mainly just trying to right the ship with with the cystitis part of it that was bothering me, and that tends to clear up pretty fast. I remember after the last time I did it, I remember I felt horrible, like physically horrible for for a good bit. I'm talking about physically. But I think 2 and 3, from an effort standpoint, I felt like I walked away from that feeling okay.
Yeah, I remember the hike at Grayson Highlands. I think that was a good choice. I recall um you and your daughter. It just didn't seem like you were in a bad place that morning because she was there to share that hike with you. And the ponies are cool. That's a cool place to go.
And also, you got to remember the Appalachian Trail runs through that as well.
You're right.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember, we saw that section and actually saw some people camped up there
Hmm.
as part of it. But yeah, that's a section of it that runs through that, which is pretty neat too. So
All right. Well, moving on to what we promised. We promised to talk about a little bit of our training. Um, I have a training block that I lifted from the internet, man. I did 100-mile training on Google Images, picked one, hit print, laminated that sucker, and I've had it for 3 or 4 years now. It's nothing fancy. I think I might have gotten an aggressive one, but not super aggressive. Um, and it seems to be working good. Um, Last couple weeks, I've noticed some aches and pains that concern me. This weekend we were running and I had a problem with my right foot. I think I figured out that's because of a shoe issue. And then the day after, my calf started hurting. And I don't know what the heck that is, but it does feel better today. Um, but for me, it's been pretty uneventful. Just trying to log miles and get in better shape. I've lost about 10 to 15 pounds in the last 2 months. Still could use 30 more pounds of loss. How's it going for you? And where did you find your training plan?
and so my training plan is um it's kind of like a hybrid plan of where I took a Rob Carr 100-mile
Oh,
training.
so ultra hard. You just went right for like elite.
Yeah, it was stupid. So I took his and just kind of dialed it back a little bit because it was always highly aggressive. Um, and then I took part of stuff that I had read from Carl Meltzer and kind of put pieces of what he recommended as well and meshed it in with Rob Carr's plan and kind of built my own around kind of the philosophy of both of those guys, if that makes sense. I tend to be heavy throughout the week. And and I tend to soften up a little bit in the middle, and then beginning is heavy, the middle is a little softer, and then the weekends are heavy. And I typically lay lower on Sunday because I know Monday I'm going to be back at it. So um I have been almost mimicking the amount of miles you're getting. Some weeks I'm ahead of you, some weeks I'm a little behind you, but I think both of us are on a pretty good, on a pretty good trajectory. I do feel like I've had probably zero issues, um, other than a couple of blisters that have healed within the same day. After the 28-mile run that we had on Saturday, woke up Sunday morning, knocked out 10. My legs were a little heavy, but then by the afternoon, I was just fine. So I do think, compared to previous years, I'm much smarter. I understand what needs to be done, and I'm not hurt myself like I have previous years. I remember the first year I hurt myself and barely ran at all the last 2 weeks of August, and had one big week of September, and then barely ran at all the way up to the race. And that was probably my best year ever. And then the second and third year, I don't feel like I trained nearly as hard as I should have. So, you know, I'm feeling good. I've lost about 10 pounds, and I
You
don't need
weigh
to
like
lose any.
150 pounds or something, right? You
I,
you, you don't weigh anything.
Yeah, I weigh 150 pounds, and I know all some of that's going to come back on once I stop running like like this, because I am running a whole lot. So
Are you going to tell everyone the reason for that? Your Reese's habit at work? Don't you
yeah,
buy like
like
a bag and
today,
stash it in the office?
like today, I had tuna popcorn, bag of Cheetos, two Kit Kat bars, uh, Dr. Pepper. So so yeah, I do like my snacks. So,
Yeah, yeah,
but it
obviously.
hasn't it hasn't affected me too bad. I've been able to eat like that and still maintain around where I'm at. So I'm feeling, but overall, all joking aside, I do feel good. I do think with your issue, I think it's common. Most people are going to have some sort of little bit of an issue. I don't feel like your issues are catastrophic. I think it's just part of it, you know.
Yeah, I feel like my issues are weight or a result of my weight issue right now. It's just too much stress on my body. But it feels more like wear and tear than it does injury, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
what you want, but that's what you want, because
right.
that's what this does to you. It's wear and tear to prepare you for the ultimate wear of 100 miles. I mean, Sunday after I ran the 10 miles, my legs were heavy, and for the first time I really felt like that feeling that you have when you've put a lot of miles on your feet and on your legs. Um, and I was so happy to finally feel that, because that's what I've been wanting to feel. Because up to this point, I've not really felt like I've been pushed real hard, and I finally felt like I'd gotten that push, and that's when you know that it's really working. Is when you can feel a strain, because you want to feel the strain, you want to feel like you're getting pushed to a wall to some extent. And so I feel good. I feel good so far, and I think this week is a lighter week for us, for both of us. And then I think we wrap it up and then taper out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got 2 more big weeks, and that's it. After that, it just tapers down. So I've got 2 weekends. This is not including the mileage during the week, but I've got 2 weekends that call for 50 miles between Saturday and Sunday. And due to life situations, it's going to be difficult to get those in back to back weekends, but I got to figure out a way to do it. Can't cheat yourself. You got to figure it out.
That's right. And I know you hate it. You hate them, but that's the beautiful thing about this treadmill is You know, I can squeeze in a run and get in a run whenever I need to. And I can safely say, and I think you running with you, you can see it that running on the treadmill has really not had a negative effect on my endurance or anything, um, at all.
It doesn't seem that way, but you're not going to find out for sure if that's true or not until you're 60 miles deep into a 100-mile race with all the elements, right?
Yeah,
But you do seem to be in pretty good. You're in better shape than I am by far. So
I can tell you right now, it is. If I survive that year at Strolling Gym without getting struck by lightning, I feel like I can pretty much survive any element. That was the scariest freaking year I don't think I've ever been in a race. That was a wild year. I mean, of course, that year at the Yeti that rained all day was pretty rough, but that year at Strolling Gym, it was just a whole different type of weather. I mean, it was like Forrest Gump, where the rain was sideways and every different direction. It was just crazy. But yeah, I mean, so far so good, at least in my opinion.
speaking of Forrest Gump, you ever read the book?
Mm-mm.
You should. And anybody out there listening to this, um, you should. It is not really like the movie at all. It's wild. But anyway, I think training is going well. We really only have, like I said, a couple more weeks of heavy training left. Um, I am disappointed that I didn't lose as much weight as I thought I would over the 3 months of training. Um, but what are you gonna do, right?
Well, and I think, but I think you still have several weeks too, and
That's
I
true.
mean you're not going to shed off 30 pounds, but I do think that you're going to continue to tighten things up, and things are going to continue to evolve. And I think by the time you get there, and we're a little bit more than 5 weeks out, um, I think you're going to be just fine. I mean that's the great thing about the 100-mile race is it's long, and and if you're not an elite, you're not sprinting through it anyway, so it's not going to matter.
That's true.
So it's just like who always says it? It's just a long walk in the woods. So
One last question. Um, what's helping you stay focused?
nothing. I'm just committed,
Just nothing.
and
Just blank.
I'm committed to doing this, and I feel like the last couple of years, at least the last year I did it, I feel like I half-assed the training, and I feel like this year for me to be successful, I've got to put in the work that I put in year one. Um, and I mean, it's going to sound cheesy, but like I'm really looking forward to being able to run with friends, and I want to be in the best possible condition to do it. So,
Yeah, makes sense, man. When I don't feel like getting up, when I don't feel like running 28, when I have an opportunity to take a right instead of a left and cut my day short, what goes on in my mind is I'm not going to lose this battle too,
that's right.
because I spent a couple of years losing some battles that I should have never lost. I
Well,
never
now,
should have never allowed myself to lose. Let's put it that way.
well, you know what? You're winning battles now. You know what? Saturday was I know you will disagree with me, but it was a good day.
It was.
We did a 28-mile run. We had a good time doing it. You were hurt. You pushed through it. You persevered, and you got that behind you. And you got up on Sunday and you knocked out your other one, and you had a solid week. So to me, it was a good weekend. It was solid, and now we just move on to the next one.
Well, one thing I learned this from Greg Armstrong, and then we'll finish this up. I remember during our SCAR, the 72 miles across the smoke as we ran together. And I remember about 40 miles in, it felt like either my calf or my ankle or something was locking up. Like it was just hurt. Like there was something wrong. It felt like something was going wrong quickly. And Greg didn't say anything much, but he said he'll watch me. And this was between What's the name of that spring? Ice Water Spring, Ice House Spring,
Where you
and
talking about? You talking about the one on top of near the boulevard? That's Ice Water Spring.
Ice Water Springs. Between that is where I noticed it, and we were rolling in the Newfound Gap. A couple miles after Ice Water Springs, he says, "You're not injured. There's nothing wrong with you. It will get better." And I didn't believe him. But by the time we got to Newfound Gap, it was gone. It went from, oh my God, I'm going to have to quit, something's wrong, to being reassured that it's not really something wrong with you as far as an injury. It's just your body's rejecting what you're doing to it. And it does not always get worse, right? Who says that? Is it Carl Meltzer that says that? It doesn't always get worse.
Doesn't always get worse. I don't know. Somebody says it.
Yeah. So that's what was going through my mind this weekend.
But this is the end of episode 2. We're gonna call it at that. We appreciate again all the support, all the people that has watched episode 1. I know for a lot of you folks, you're like, how many times can this person talk about this damn race? Plenty more.
We do appreciate you watching and following along in this journey.
That's right. And just wanting to share it with everybody who's willing to come along with us. So until next week, we will see you then.